grey mess. This is for you. Today I'm going to show you just 5 key steps that will change your clouds completely, and I'll explain why they're so important. Firstly, a few basics on preparation. Paper and brushes. Only use cotton paper. The fibers in the non-cotton paper will often peel or create puddles, which will give you a disappointing patchy result. You need a brush that holds plenty of water to achieve a smooth wash, so you need a mop brush or a large soft flat brush. Today I'm using a mop brush and a round brush later on for some details. If you've ever wondered what the difference between a round brush and a mop brush is, I'm comparing similar sizes. A round brush is firmer and snappier than a mop brush. Our mop brush has finer and softer hairs and will hold heaps more water, which is what you want when painting expanses of sky. The first key step is the sky, the background. This is a variegated wash, which just means that we're using more than one color. We're using 3. Even though my paper's small, I need a really big puddle of paint. I'm using an old brush to mix up a big puddle of Cobalt Blue. You've got to have a lot of paint here. Don't skimp. You can't afford to mix it while you're painting. And guess what? None of it will go to waste. Because if it dries up, you just add water and you have paint again. You haven't wasted anything. Before I move on to my next color, I'm squeezing out the paint, and I know my hand's in the way, so I'm going to give it another squeeze, and look, the second squeeze and still more color. Now I'm mixing a nice large pool of yellow ochre and squeeze out my brush, and look at all that paint. And some permanent alizarin. My paint's very juicy and very wet. And again, look at all that lovely juicy paint. Okay, so now I need to thoroughly wet my brush, tap it out, and wet it again. I always do it twice just to make sure it's fully wet. Now it's time to saturate my mop brush with my Cobalt Blue, but I definitely do not want to re-dip into water because that'll mess up the mix. It will hold a lot. It's like a bucket or a mop. Now with my board tilted and a fully loaded brush, I'm applying the paint. And you can see that the bead is starting to build. That big droplet that runs down the page. You can't achieve this on a flat surface. And this bead and the way it runs down gives you that luminous, beautiful finish because the paint sits on top of the paper and allows it to shine through. As I change colors, I'm not even washing my brush. I'm just re-dipping into the next color and they're all mixing together. But I do now need to wash my brush and tap it out because I want the sky to be lighter down the bottom. If you'd like to know more about working with the bead and creating washes, I have a video just on that. Link in the description or up here in the corner. Now I can quickly mop up any drips on the sides, clean it up, and ready for step 2. Step 2 is getting to know the mighty power of the tissue. Let me show you a few tips about the tissue. I'm using a dry tissue and a wet tissue there. I have dampened my tissue and I'm molding it into a workable shape. I can press down gently and then give it a slight little flick and turn. I could scrunch my tissue into a bit of a roll and then roll out these fleecy clouds. I can use a dry tissue on damp paper and wipe out some beautiful sun rays. Different papers will react differently. This is Arches cold press paper. My sky is wet and now it's time to act quickly. Step 3 is lifting clouds out of the sky in simple shapes with flat bottoms to give us the illusion of depth in the sky. If you're finding this helpful, subscribe and you won't miss part 2. There's a special technique I haven't shown anyone yet. And now I'll create one up high, and this will be the largest cloud. This will be the cloud that if I was to look straight up in the air, I would most likely see the bottom of this cloud. And then with a clean tissue, I need some distant, far away clouds. And these three sizes here, and the fact that we have flat bottoms, will give us the instant illusion of depth in the sky. And this is only the first layer. And now we need to allow this to dry. Here's a quick difference between a roundish cloud or a cloud with a flat bottom. Just think of them as big, big boxes in the sky with foam coming out of them. Our first layer is dry. Our first layer was painted with a mop brush because we needed a bead and we needed everything nice and smooth and the areas were big. In step 4, we start to add shadows. Now I'm going to use a round brush. Any round brush will do. I'm using clean water to paint the clouds in, but I'm leaving the tops of them, the very edges, dry because that'll keep them as light as possible. So more or less paint in the middle of the clouds, close enough to the edge. Using our same existing colours, Cobalt Blue, Permanent Alizarin and Yellow Ochre, I'm mixing a soft grey. This paint has to be creamy because we've wet the clouds already. Having the paper tilted is crucial only for washes, so if you'd like to go flat, now's the time to go flat. This is the closest cloud, and I'm just going to paint it in like that because it's above us, a little bit wispy on the edges. As your brush becomes drier, you can pull a few strokes into the blue sky with your brush on its side. With a tissue dampened a little bit, you can even break it up a bit and it looks really cool. All right, now let's go down to this one. What we do want is a bottom to our cloud. We'll make the bottom a little bit flatter like this. I'm washing my brush and getting the extra moisture out. And now I can just blend that up. Now I can add more color to it by adding more pigment to my mix, but not adding any more water. That's very important. And paint the shadows down the bottom and up the side, just as if you were painting a tree. I can add some more very creamy paint to my top cloud. And this brings us to step 5, where we make sure we have some soft and hard edges in our clouds. You'll find that when you paint clouds, you'll be thinking about soft and hard edges all the way through. Here I've used soft and hard edges in the shadows. Here's a hard edge and here's a soft blurred edge. You need a combination of both to make your clouds and sky look alive. A few little spots at the back and make them softer because they are far away. Alrighty, and now we can put in some kind of landscape. So I'm taking the same colors as before, Cobalt Blue, Alizarin and the Yellow Ochre. And it's a warm type of grey, a perfect combination of these three colors. And I can put in a bit of a hill. There we go. And you can even put some trees here and there. After it fully dried, I could see that I needed to strengthen some of the values. So with the same colours again, Cobalt Blue, Permanent Alizarin, and a little tiny bit of yellow ochre, I strengthened the darkest parts of the clouds. If you enjoyed this and would like to take your clouds to the next level with some fancy techniques and an easy 3D method, see part 2 linked at the end of this video. I can't wait to see your skies. Drop a photo in the comments, and happy painting.